You're listening to The Broken Meeple Show, a podcast that speaks passionately about board games for the benefit of those who play them. My name's Luke Hector, best known for the Broken Meeple YouTube channel, and I'm an everyday gamer just like you. And I'll be talking about reviews, top 10s, and just about anything that connects me to board games, as long as I have a tea or coffee in hand, that is. So grab a cup, relax, and enjoy. And remember, it's only a game. Hi everyone, Luke Hector here. Whoa, the camera could be a little bit better situated. Why don't we try that? So yeah, hello, episode 100. Whoa, well, 100 of this podcast show anyway, not 100 of the whole channel, because this has been going on a lot longer. There must be at least over 1,000 videos, if not more. And even then, I did a podcast before I did this series. So this is just basically episode 100 of the Broken Meeple show. So this particular segment that I've been doing, and I've been saying that I'll do something a little special for it. I'm not going to go ape, but I wanted something to hit that milestone, and I basically just said I would do an offline Q&A. So some of this I'll do the usual channel updates, and there are a couple of games that I do want to talk about because they got me enraged. But once I get over those, then we'll get on to a big list of questions that I've had from Patreons and commenters alike, and just people who have spoken to me recently, frankly. And I'm just going to go through those. I've not had a chance to research them all. I'm keeping it similar to how I normally do questions, but at least I've had some idea of what questions are coming up, so it gives me my brain a little bit to go on. But yeah, just thought I would do this as a special for this one. So things with the update on the channel, health-wise, not too bad. It's been a bit grueling lately for work, Big Brother looking over my shoulder and various other parts, but it's a busy period. The summer is a lot of my jobs for the way I'm not going to bore you with the intricacies of how an accountancy firm works, but the way my portfolio works is that a lot of my work comes up in the summer because they want to get it filed by the end of September and all that. So all my stuff has piled up over the last few weeks, and it's made it quite a bit of a slog. Now, everything's an uphill walk from this point on, though, because yes, it's still hard work and there's still a lot of hours to put in, but things are getting done, things are progressing, and the more stuff gets finished or develops, the better mood I'm in because I feel like I'm being productive. During the summer, you feel like nothing's getting done, and it just feels horrible at that point. So September is going to be a grueling month, but it's going to be a productive month. And by the time we get into October, a lot of my workload is going to have been done, which is kind of like the idea. And the autumn looks fantastic going forward. I mean, as soon as September is pretty much done, we've got Shake, Battle and Roll at the end of the month. Then I go straight to Essen for the first week of October. Then we've got HandyCon the end of October. We've got GridCon mid-November. A couple of birthdays to deal with during that time. And then my cruise in December, where I'm away for the last 2 weeks of one of the busy periods of work. So the autumn and winter have got great things for the rest of this year for me. I've just got to get through the summer and September. That's the main deal. So things are on the up and up and up. But yeah, it's it's been hard to get through that, and also trying to do the blog. I've had quite a fair bit to do on that lately, and certainly some slight anxiety-inducing videos in the past. But nothing too bad that I can't handle. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, just generally chilled a lot because I haven't gone away much lately, and I've even had a couple of nights where I've just been bored. I mean, you might think, well, how can you be bored? You've got all these games here, and it's like, yeah, but I need to have the energy and the motivation to go and get a board game and bring it out, learn the rules again, get it out solo. It takes a little bit of effort. So, if I'm just in a really lazy, lethargic state, then there's only so much I can do, and there's no movies that I fancy watching. I've completed Dead Space and Jedi Survivor and all that, and some of those PC games. So unless I'm playing Valheim or stuff with the mates like I'm doing tonight, then there's no video games that I fancy playing. So at least the ones that don't cost like 50 quid plus. And yeah, I can only go to the gym so many times. So yeah, I'm just trying to find stuff to do, really. But yeah, things are on the up and up. It's just been a bit of a weird summer. The channel generally 100 subs. Yeah, it's going up and up, but I've seen channels have bigger growth than mine. So come on, let's get some of those subs in there. Let's bump that number up fast. Spread the word. But the content lately has not been too bad, actually. I mean, the last top 10 I did, it's only been out for a couple of days. 5,000, top 10 games best played without noobs. seriously, people, if you're going to like comment on my videos and start doing the whole like social justice train or whatever you want to be on, watch the video first, especially the introductions. I made a massive disclaimer at the start of this video where I talk about what I mean by the word noob and that it's not derogatory and that it's literally more case of, are you familiar with the game in advance, that kind of thing. I even made a joke about it by putting a massive like wall of text on the screen to say I can't call my list this, so it's all explained. A few people decided to just comment instantly and not actually watch that bit, and so it's like, oh god, I gotta deal with this again. It gets annoying. But yeah, by all means, watch the video, because it is a good laugh, but certainly watch the start of it, okay, before you get on that train. The speed reviews I've been working quite nicely. I mean, they don't generate a lot of views, so you might think, well, what's the point of even doing them? But they don't take me very long to do. These speed reviews are literally, I kid you not, I literally just record the video, and hopefully don't make a mess of it. And then I edit it by stringing the thing together, tidying up bits, intro and outro, and that's it. I don't put video clips. I don't worry too much. I only have to worry about like one bit of music. There's no loads of intersecting bits and everything, or graphical jokes and stuff. So they take me a lot less time to edit than a normal review. And so this enables me to cover games that I normally wouldn't cover, or to do games that don't require a lot of discussion. I mean, look what I've got here. I've got Free of a Kind, Clink, and Draft and Write Records. Now, these are games I've played, and I've enjoyed, but, Free of a Kind and Clink, these are two, like, little filler card games. I can't spend 30 minutes talking about that with all sorts of jokes and stuff. The fact that these videos are less than 10 minutes a piece, which is kind of what I'm aiming for with these, that all these speed reviews will be less than 10 minutes, means that I can cover them, give a verdict. All I gotta do is just say, right, how does the game play, and give a summary and verdict. And that's it. No good things, bad things, stuff like that. It's give a summary and a verdict to cover everything nice and quick. Obviously, I can't do that for a big, massive Euro game, but for these tiny little games, it's a little bit easier to do this, and it kind of works nicely there. So, yeah, I don't expect these to generate a lot of views, but then they help me get more stuff on the channel, which I gotta admit, I've been looking at, actually, I'll cover this in one of the questions lately, stuff about the algorithm and that. But yeah, that's all I've done since the last podcast. Wow, I haven't released a huge amount lately. I guess a lot of my stuff came before the last one, the best and worst of Czech game editions. That was a really good vid, although, could stand to get a bit more. Arcs, still doing strong, nearly, 11,500 views. And yeah, okay, we're never going to get to 90% likes because there's still 77 fans who hate me guts for it. But it's like, how dare you not to give this masterpiece 10 out of 10? And it's like, can we stop using the word masterpiece when we're describing games, people? I mean, people are very quick to throw that word around on Facebook, and it's like, yeah, let's really dwell down to what a masterpiece is classed as, all right? But a few of the other reviews have done pretty well. I'm actually kind of surprised I got a lot of reviews for Wild Gardens. I never expected that to do well. I thought nobody would have heard of that game, but by all means, check out the review. It's definitely worth it. Yeah, and just other stuff has done okay, but I feel like things could still be better. But we got some good stuff on the way. Let's see, I've got a review for Mass Effect that I need to finish editing today. So Mass Effect, the new Modiphius board game, that's got an embargo until the 2nd of September. But I will get my review out hopefully on the 2nd of September. It just means I'm going to have to finish editing it today, so I better get a move on. I've got the quick little preview. We're talking like 5-10 minutes max preview of the, I can actually reach for it here. The Dreams and Mysteries expansion for Lanzagausier. Designers asked me to do a little piece on this before their Kickstarter. In a sort of quick summary, it's essentially more content for a game that's already really good, but I'll basically just give an overview of what's in the box. There's not much else I can do without spoiling stuff. What else? I've got the Deep Rock Galactic expansions. That was quite a long vid to record, but I have recorded it, so that is on the way. What else do I want to review? Oh yes, well, not review, but I will do a video for the Essen preview. So I normally do this as a podcast thing. I don't think I want to do it as a podcast. It just gets hidden in the ether too much. I want to do this as a proper video. I'll still be in front of the PC screen microphone like podcast style here because I want to obviously share my screen, but I will do it as a one-off video. So it won't be a podcast episode. It will be a normal video, except I'll be next to my PC sharing the screen like this. But yeah, so Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff to come, and obviously looking forward to Essen. Quick note on that. Remember, I need to remind people of the Meet and Play event. I will be at Essen. At the moment, I'm not demoing with anyone because everybody's filled up all their slots, which is kind of annoying because it means I can't get an exhibitor badge, you know. But then I'm kind of busy for a bit of the convention, so the most time I can really offer is Wednesday to set your booth up. But, you know, if you've got an exhibitor badge and you need somebody to help set up and construct your booth on the Wednesday, then give me a shout, because I'll certainly do it in exchange. But because the problem is press passes don't get you squat at Essen. You know, you're treated just like everybody else. You know, you at most you might be able to get in 10 minutes early, but that's it. You know, whereas exhibitors can go in, wander around because obviously they're demoing. But yeah, they're very strict on their press. You know, they make it so hard to get a press pass, and then they just don't give you any benefit for actually being press. It's kind of weird. But, you know, we'll see how that goes. But the Meet and Play event is definitely worth checking out if you want to speak to me easily, because I might take a couple of pocket filler games like Vegetable Stock or something with me. But basically, it's a free event. Visitors to Essen can meet media representatives. So basically, they can meet content creators. Now, a few of us, myself, Paul Grogan, Mark Monk, and several others, are basically making a kind of pact to turn up at 3 o'clock on Saturday. So a few of us are going to be there at the same time, you know, from the UK. But yeah, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. I'm definitely going to be there. If they let us stay longer, then I'll stay longer, frankly. I mean, I might stay 3 till 5, 3 till 6. You know, it goes on from 2 till 6. We are going to be there from 3 o'clock. So on Saturday, the 5th of October, in the Europa Hall, this is where it takes place. It's, if I remember correctly, when you go into the main entrance to get into Hall 1, then you can go downstairs and it's one of those rooms. It should be signposted, hopefully, but failing that, ask the people who run it. But yeah, there's quite a few people that are going to be there, some European creators for sure. But as I said, we are going to be there. So by all means, get in touch. So let's see, can we see who's participating? Have they updated this? So here we go. Oh, here we go. Yep, so they have actually got my thing on there. So not too many on the English front. I don't think he'll be turning up, funny enough. But yeah, Ninja Geek, Gaming Rules. So yeah, a few of us, Sucker Drips. Yeah, we've got Whose Turn. So, and obviously myself. So yeah, you know, you can actually put a little blurb at this. But yep, we're going to turn up. So I don't know why it hasn't put 3 o'clock for mine. But yeah, I'm going to be there. So by all means, you know, 3 o'clock on Saturday at Europa Hall. Come and say hi. We can play some filler games if necessary, like tiny little card games, or we can just chat. You know, I'm cool. But it's just way that, I mean, if you catch me during a convention, and I'll say hi if I'm not in a rush, but, you know, I'm more than willing to chat. But if you want a quiet area to chat with me, then this is a good one, especially if you want to chat for more than 5 minutes. Whew, okay, get a drink. Throat is drying up already because it is quite hot in here. Yes, the summer is not finished yet. But yeah, cool. So that aside, let's get on to a couple of games I've played. I'm just going to do very quick summaries of these ones. So let's get rid of Meet and Play. Let's get rid of Meet and Play. Let's start off with a good one first, actually. And I'm going to need to borrow another Board Game Geek page for this because I accidentally didn't save a tab for it. But that's also because I didn't expect to have played this. I've actually played Undergrove. A friend of mine backed it on Kickstarter, and so I played it with 4 of us last Wednesday. Elizabeth Hargrave and Beth Sobel, the combination about your wingspan, among others as well. But, you know, I know there were others involved. But this is the new one. It's about mushrooms, and again, pretty tiles. They had a deluxe version, so it was very chunky tiles. And basically, it's just, I suppose you could call it an engine builder. But basically, you place these tiles out, which are mushrooms with different abilities, and the roots that you place down are these little circles you put in between the tiles. And so you put down your seedling, the roots that stick out, these little triangles, enable you to use the power of a particular mushroom. But what you're trying to also do is absorb carbon, which are these little black discs. The abilities cost carbon to use, and they go on the tiles, and then you absorb the carbon into your tree roots, and they grow, and they allow you to score more points. It's pretty much how it goes. I mean, you only have so many actions. You have to manage these resources of potassium, nitrogen, and whatever K is, I forget, or is that potassium and is it potassium? Yeah, potassium, nitrogen. What's P then? I forget. I don't know. You start remembering them as blue, yellow, and purple. Frankly, by the time the game's done, and you have to use these resources in an efficient way and build up a little engine, and you get victory points. So it's nothing drastically new. It looks beautiful. The artwork being Beth Sobel means it's going to look great on the table. Deluxe version, everything's made out of wood, so it does look cool, although there are these stupid massive stands for putting your tiles on. It's like a massive board that you put together. It's like bigger than the Everdell tree. You have one in front of you, and basically you only have 3 of these tiles in your hand, and you can put them on this stand so that you don't have to hold them in your hand. Firstly, there's only 3 of them. It's not that difficult to hold 3 tiles, people. But then also, there is no incentive to have them hidden in the first place. You don't need them to be hidden. You gain no benefit from knowing what tiles your opponents have, because you can't stop them playing it. They can put them anywhere they want on the map, and it may be of no use to you whatsoever. So it's a pointless reason to have them hidden, and so it's a pointless gimmick to have this massive stand. I'm trying to see if there's a picture anywhere on Board Game Geek, but I don't think there is, which I'm surprised, because you'd think there would be. But actually saying that, I did a first impressions, so there should be one for me. Yeah, why is mine not showing? So let's have a look. Here we go. Yeah, first impressions from 4-player experience. I've actually done a little write-up of this, but here we go. Yeah, it's this massive thing. So, yeah, it's a massive, giant white stand. That big. That is big. I've got it zoomed in on my camera there, but it holds 3 big-sized tiles, and that's literally it. It is a pointless gimmick. It was an add-on, so it's not a big deal, but yeah, if you were thinking about whether you should have spent money on that, don't, because it really is no difference. But yeah, here's one of my photos here, so one of my Instagram photos to use for it. But yeah, it's a very pretty game. It's smooth. The rules are not complicated. There was no FAQ moments, really. And I thought it was good, but just not amazing. I mean, it does the trick. It's a nice little engine buildy style game with a nice theme, even though it could have been anything other than mushrooms, frankly. You could have changed it to anything else, but at least it makes it now look good. And there's not a huge amount of player interaction, at least not much that's notable, really. Not that you couldn't simulate by other means. And the abilities on these mushrooms are not varied enough. They're all the same. They're just basically convert X to Y or flip a token for the most part. And I would have just liked to have seen a bit more variety in them. Not just simply resource gathering things. It would have been nice if there were some point opportunity things or some like other little mini objectives you could go for as a result of the abilities on these. Like, oh, here's a path to victory. If I get a bunch of these together, I can really munchkin this for points. There's only so much of that you can do, but the game itself is fine. I enjoyed it. I'd play it again. Try out different mushroom tiles or something, or like go for a different thing. I think I went very heavy on spreading across the map and absorbing carbon as much as possible, and only just one, but you could focus in one area. It depends what other objectives come out. So yeah, it's a fine game. It's a fine game. It's good. I hope to get a copy at Essen and review it, but I don't think I'll be getting a review copy because AEG staff turnover is as bad as Asmodee UK. So by the time anybody gets in contact saying, oh yeah, we'll ship review copies, that person then leaves and then nobody contacts you, and then you try to contact them again and nobody speaks to you. So AEG is a publisher that I just never seem to get any review copies from. So if I want it, I'm going to have to go buy it. So, thank you Patreons for helping support the channel so I can actually do that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a fine game. I'd play it again. Just don't go into this thinking it's going to be the best game of 24, because at this rate, it could maybe hit the top 10 of 24 at the rate, because 24's games have been pretty lackluster so far, but that's not exactly giving this one such a high praise for that. But it may not. I mean, by the time we get through Essen with some of the games that I'm looking forward to playing, I don't know if this will meet the cut, so we'll see. But it's good, just not great. At least I can say it's good, because these next 2 games, on the other hand, Shadow Ninjas, the Tuesday Bogner Club I went to last Tuesday. I didn't get to play the games that I wanted to play. Instead, because there was 5 of us, we had to basically play some 5-player games. And one of them was Shadow Ninjas. This is a brand new game this year, actually. Maybe I don't know if it was a Kickstarter or not. Maybe it was just a release. But Outset Media, never heard of it before. It's a hidden movement game, one versus many. And basically, to put simply, you have a map. I'm trying to find a bigger picture to look at. Here we go. This is good. So, a bunch of you control these shadow cat tiles, and it's well produced. I'll give it that. It's nicely produced. But the idea is that these cats start here and they're all flip face down, but one of your 4 cats that you have is the real ninja, right? The rest are just shadows, basically. The one player has 2 dogs, and they move their dogs around, and everybody moves with dice. You roll 2 dice, and you allocate a die to 2. You allocate 1 die to 1 piece, and you move it. So you've got 2 dice, 2 things will move. You can't combine. But the idea is that the players are trying to get their actual cat to one of the fish at the top, in which case that one will win on their own, even though all of them are technically against the dogs. The dog player is basically seeking out the cats, and when they get into line of sight, they flip them over, and then if they're shadow, they flip back over, but if they're the real one, they're out of the game, which again causes player elimination, which is not a good thing. And it's basically that, and it's just basically a little bit of a decoy hidden movement game. The premise is decent, but it doesn't really work well in practice. You know, you get a little bit of fun at the start, but the problem is that the 2 watchdogs can move quite fast, across the map, and they've only got to look at line of sight of you. So, you might be alright in a corner, but, they could see you across half the map if you time it wrong. And when you're flipped over and you're out, you're not really doing much else, but it's very hard to get past the dogs unless the dogs all go to one side of the map and you go to the other side. The other problem is that players can control all the cats. So they could move your actual cat, whether they realize it or not. But the thing is, if you move your cat to try and leg it towards the fish, then the opponents can simply just move that character back. So they can basically scupper you as soon as they realize, oh, your actual cat's moving there, I'm going to, move it back. I mean, you would never not let a cat get close to the fish. You would always move it back if you could. So they're all scuppering each other while the watchdogs can just go after each other. But also, if 3 other players get eliminated, leaving only 1 left, that player is screwed because they've got to get past 2 watchdogs and it's just not going to happen. Add to this game is based a lot on luck. Because your movement is dictated by what dice you roll. There is no catch-up mechanic or mitigation. If I roll 2 1s, I can only move 2 cats 1 space each. But then the watchdog rolls 2 6s and can move each one 6. I actually only lost the game. I was the last person in it. And the only reason I lost was because I rolled lowish and moved as fast as I could, and and the other player rolled 2 6s, or 5 and a 6 or whatever, right? So basically, they were only just able to catch up to my cat, see it, and knock me out, all because of dice rolling. What's the point of a hidden movement game that has tactics and detection in that if literally the dice basically dictate everything? It seems a little bit too skewed towards the dog player. And the fact that you're not working cooperatively means that the dog player has another advantage because the cats are all trying to screw each other. So it's not really a 1 versus many. It's a 1v all against all. It's kind of weird, but a quick little drink. It's fine. I'd give it a 4 out of 10. I mean, Undergrove I'd give about a 7 out of 10. Good, but not great. Shadow Ninjas is probably a 4. It's below average. It's a cheap laugh. It will be good for kids, but it's got too much randomness to get in the way of the hidden movement. It's not particularly well balanced. The map doesn't change. It's the same board each time. And I'm not sure I like the way that the cats can screw each other. That just seems a bit weird. But yeah, it's what it is. It's nothing amazing. Oh God, do I have things to say about this next one though. Oh, Jesus. Remember Silverwood Grove when I played that and I said this is going to be one of the worst games I played this year? Oh, Binding of Isaac 4 Souls said, hold my beer. And this beer as well, because this is one of the worst games I have played, period. I hate this. I've never played the PC game or video game, indie game, whatever it's based on, so I'd never heard of this when they introduced it to me. He said, oh, this is Binding of Isaac. What's that? It's based on an indie game. What indie game? And I was like, I've never heard of it, never played it. Apparently, the indie game is popular and pretty good. No idea. Indie games are not really my style. Bar things like Valheim and Don't Starve, I guess. But, this sort of pixelated thing I'm not a fan of. They then described it to me. And I had worries. Because from the description, I could tell instantly that the game was basically just going to be Munchkin, more convoluted and longer. Was I right? Oh, freaking hell, was I right? Oh, Jesus, this game sucked. Absolutely sucked. There was 5 of us. It was so chaotic. This thing is just utter chaos. You draw a bunch of cards. They're mostly just gain money, but sometimes it might do 1 damage or whatever. You are trying to kill these various monsters. Let me try and see if I can get a half-decent picture up. Yeah, you're trying to collect souls, and as soon as you collect 4 souls, you win, right? And these souls are usually on monsters, right? You have a character, you have a special item, they do weird, crazy, chaotic stuff. And the idea is that you can collect more items by spending gold for them. You have monsters which have hit points and damage. You roll a die to see if you get past their hit value. If you fail, they hit you back. If you succeed, then you keep going until you get rid of their hit points. Basically just luck. And players can screw you over with cards. They can play out of turn. You have so many cards you can play around by tapping stuff. You have items that say roll a die and do crazy stuff. You have items that say destroy other people's stuff that they've worked hard for. It's just a ton of luck. This is Munchkin. It is entirely Munchkin. And I think it's made by the same person who made the video game. So granted, this guy can make a decent video game by the sound of it. Well, fair play. I don't trust people who can make video games to design board games, because this literally is a rip-off of Munchkin. It's just Munchkin, except there are more FAQ moments, because there were constantly bits that didn't make sense with some of the rules on the cards, or whether this applied to this or whatever. We had a point where the monster row was locked down with stuff that was nigh on unkillable, so this delayed things. You draw randomly off this loot deck for stuff that you can play in your turn, most of which is gain money, but you really want the stuff that causes more damage to enemies, like bombs and stuff, because that's actually how you can kill half of them reliably. And it's just a bunch of chaos. And then people were taking forever on their turns, because there's like, well, there's so many weird stuff. I'll play this, I guess, and I'll play this. And I'm like, I'm sitting there thinking, this is not rocket science. This is Munchkin, right? You literally have a few things you can do. You can attack a monster. Do you have a chance of killing one? No, well, you ain't doing that. Play a loot card in your hand, maybe 1 or 2. Fine. Buy one, get some money, then you could buy an item. Your turn is done. We hurry up, please. And, this thing just took, like, ages for a game that should have been, like, a 20-minute filler. It just really wasn't a game for me. And I get that there may be an audience for this, but as I said, this is Munchkin, but more convoluted, with more FAQ moments, and potentially, longer, shorter. It's kind of, maybe they're on par, but yeah, this is a more convoluted version of Munchkin. If that is of any way appealing to you, then by all means you can check this game out. But for the rest of us, avoid this game like the bubonic plague, because this was horrendous. I don't want to see this game again. I don't want to play it again. The humor is not there. There's nothing really that funny in it. Nothing made me giggle or laugh. I just wanted this game to end by any means necessary. And, thankfully, I think the kid in the group won or something like that. Wondering how on earth did he do that, because, he said it himself. He's like, how did I win that? I just came in, didn't really know the rules, and then I still won. And it's like, yeah, you still won because the game is just a barrel of luck with no skill or choices involved. So any schmuck can win it. You just have to roll a die and see who does. It's garbage. Don't play this game. Sucked. Binding of Isaac sucked. Never want to see it again. Or any game that is a rip-off of Munchkin. If you're designing the game and your game is anywhere similar to Munchkin, just stop. Just stop designing games. Get some more innovation and find something else to do. Alright? Alright. It makes me angry playing this one. Alright. Now, children, let's cheer up and smiles. Well, I'll try anyway. But yeah, God, that really did get me riled up, didn't it? Right, well, let's get on with some of the questions then. That was the whole point of this episode, so I'm going to sort of bash through a bunch of questions here and, just basically see how we go. So let's start off with, let's see, from Mimi, background to being a creator. So yeah, how did I become a creator? Why did I do it? What was I seeking? I think 2013 was about when I started. So we are talking over 10 years ago now. And I'd moved out from a crappy basement flat for the 1 year I came back to Portsmouth and, stayed there. When I moved into a flat, a new build flat, and got my first mortgage and stuff, I started getting into board games because I went to meetup.com, found my old Portsmouth club back when it was run better, and, basically got into games that way. I mentioned about the whole Seven Wonders game that I won on my first try. But once I got into those games, I bought an IKEA Kallax shelf or whatever they were called back then, and got a few games, and then just thought, well, I watched a few creators on YouTube. I just sort of had a look around, found the Dice Tower back when it was the age-old Sam Healey, Tom and Z, the trio that I still miss to this day, because I think that was peak Dice Tower, frankly. What happens now is nothing compared to what those three were like, the chemistry between them. And they got me into some games, and I thought, this would be fun. I mean, I'm quite an opinionated person. I like to speak my mind, be blunt. I like to give my views on stuff. So, go figure. But I thought, what, let's try it. Let's just try some amateur videos. Got myself a HD cam, and just thought, let's see it. It'd be a good laugh. Maybe if things go well, I could be not famous, but like somebody who's known in the industry. And the early stuff was certainly amateurish. It wasn't anything I would certainly be proud of, but I tried my best. It got my creative juices flowing, and then things just kind of kept going from there. As I started upgrading the equipment a little bit, I started learning stuff. I got more used to the video editing software, and skills were just learned throughout the time. And then technology improved with the whole camera setup. This whole thing of having a webcam and doing this via the laptop obviously became a thing. The only thing I haven't been able to adapt to, and I've got wasted tech in the other room because of this, is the whole top-down tabletop thing to show gameplay. I've tried it once or twice. I can never get it to work right, sound-wise or visual-wise. And Paul Grogan keeps joking that it's so simple, and if he was here, he'd be able to show me how to do it in no time. Could somebody chip in his Patreon or something and buy him a train ticket so he can come down for a weekend and help me do that? Because I would actually do gameplay videos if I could work out how to get the stupid thing to work, because I don't have a camera mounted from the ceiling or any of this stuff that the big folk do, or even what Paul does. I've only got like a big sort of C stand with stuff hanging off it, and it's a pain to drag it in all the time. Then I've got to hook it up to something. What do I hook it up to? This laptop that's noisy with a fan? Do I use that microphone? Which microphone? I can't do multiple camera angles. I can only have top down, and that's it, so you wouldn't see my face. It's too complicated. So I haven't really been able to try that. But yeah, the creator thing just started from there, and then as it got more traction, as people started noticing my name, I just kept going. Just was interested to get more, and it opened my view to a lot of people. So I was able to, meet lots of new people, go to different clubs, visit conventions. First time I went to Games Expo was like Kid in the Candy Store. Then I went to Essen for the first time, mega Kid in the Candy Store, and it introduced me to a lot of new games. And the more new games I started playing, the more I got into it, and I just kept the channel going from there. And this is one of those things where there have been times where I have hit burnout, and I thought, can I really keep this going? Why am I spending a lot of my life doing this? And, you enter those lulls now and again. It's still enjoyable, but it is still technically work. So, this is not an easy thing to do. You can't just waltz up and be a content creator and expect it to do anything. But, you gotta put up with a lot of anxiety-inducing stuff being a content creator. But the fun stuff is still good fun. It still has enabled me to play a lot more games than I would, meet lots of cool people. And now that we're at a stage where, I've got a decent amount of subs for a board game channel anyway, because obviously there's a massive gap between me and like the big lot. But the fact that there is this, and I've got the unique perspective, because that was the other thing. I was trying to be unique, say, all right, here's some video clips for, from films and that to make it interesting. And also I'm going to speak my mind. And as a small content creator, I had the advantage of just being able to say what I thought about games and not actually worry about doing the whole IGN thing of I love everything unless you haven't paid me. So it's nowadays being able to be that kind of honest creator thing of like, look, I'm going to speak my mind. I've got a full 10-point scale, none of this 7 minimum rubbish, and just go on with that. It's been good. It's nice to have that kind of unique perspective, whether it does cause some anguish now and again. And certainly people are noticing this channel more because of that. So I want to continue along that line. But yeah, it literally, there wasn't really much I was seeking. I never thought it was going to be big and earn me money or anything, because it doesn't. I mean, it's only because the Patreon exists that I can keep this running. If I didn't have a Patreon, this channel wouldn't be able to afford to run. There'd be too many costs for running it, and I wouldn't be able to get review copies, enough review copies for free to warrant, putting a whole channel together. So I would be tapping into my own savings too much to, which has to pay the bill and the mortgages and stuff. Bear in mind, I live alone, so I have to fork out all the money to myself, and Although not having kids certainly makes life a bit easier. But, it's the fact that if the Patreons weren't here, this channel wouldn't run. So, I couldn't afford... This was never going to be a moneymaker. And I never thought I was going to be famous, like Dice Tower levels or Shut Up and Sit Down levels or something. That was never going to happen. But I just wanted to enjoy putting a channel together and just seeing that people do watch it and are entertained or find it useful to make their own mind up about games, whether they want to buy it or not, based on what I say about it. Gives me a decent amount of joy. It gives me some job satisfaction, certainly more job satisfaction than I get my normal day job. But this thing would never be able to be self-sufficient enough to be my full-time job. So, the job has to pay the bills. This has to be on the side. So, yeah, that's kind of the general background. I just did it on a whim. Thought it would be cool. Alright, one from Anastasia. Games I recommend but wouldn't own. Okay, well that's different, because with that, there are some games that, there's a lot of games I own, but there's a lot of games that I've played from other people, but I wouldn't necessarily own them myself. And the one that comes to mind immediately is Feudum. Feudum is a game that I actually quite enjoyed. I wanted to try it. I knew it was going to be heavy. It was a rules investment trying to learn the game. I liked the look of it. I thought the art style was different and a bit weird that you got this monster, yet you're also trying to build up an economy. It's like, what? But the card system I thought was quite cool in it. But the main thing I was looking forward to are these 6 guilds on the side, about how one interacts with the next, and then that one interacts with the next, and then that one interacts with the next, and you can be the owner of it, or you can be a proprietor of it. And, this sort of stuff sounded cool on paper. Well, I played it. A friend of mine, I think, has the game and wanted to play it, but, can't get his girlfriend to play it because it's not really her thing. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, the game took forever and it was a bit of a mammoth, but I really loved how these guilds interacted. There were certainly some flaws with the game, and it's certainly not a perfect game. It needs to be streamlined like crazy. But I did like how the guilds worked. Now, it's a nightmare to teach. And it was a nightmare for him to teach it. So there is no way in hell's teeth that unless you create an edition that is a streamlined version of this, that I am going to own this game. It's not going to happen. But if you're a heavy gamer, I do recommend giving this one a look, because it is quite a fun game. But own it? No way. That is not going to happen at all. Trying to think of... Usually, if it's going to be a game that I wouldn't own, then it's probably going to be one that is extremely long with a massive setup. So I could like it. Like, I would like to play Europa Universalis, or whatever it is called, the Paradox themed one. So this looks like a very fun, Civ game. The problem is that it takes like 90 to 300 minutes to play it. It's got a bucket load of rules and a bucket load of pieces. There is no way in hell's teeth I am going to be able to learn and play this game properly. So I would like to play it, and if I enjoy it, great, but there's no way that I would own a beast like this. It's just not going to happen. There are some, actually, that I have sold recently. So, War of the Ring. I thought this was a good, fun game. Although there were rules, but it was a good back and forth between 2 players. But, cool, blimey, you got a fair amount of rules. You don't want to play this with new people. In fact, if I enjoyed the game more, this would have been a good contender. This definitely should have been an honourable mention on the games not to play with noobs list. I think somebody in the comments actually did suggest this one. And I thought, oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, because you play this, you got one expert playing this with a complete noob, and it really does throw the balance off kilter. But yeah, I mean, as much as I enjoyed it, I just could not keep owning it. It was just never going to happen. Some games on my shelf have come to that point where I am starting to wonder if I want to own them. Zyre, Star Wars Rebellion, these games that are really hard to get to the table. As much as I do think the game is overrated, Voidfall's another example. I mean, the game's fine, and I enjoyed some time of it solo, but I do think it's being overrated like crazy at the moment. People considering it to be the magnum opus of board gaming. I swear people's love for board games is directly correlated to the size, value, and complexity of a game. So if a game's really expensive, or really big in size, like big box, or stupidly complicated, then they'll love it more. So the fact that this comes in a massive box, the fact that it is super complicated, I mean, look, it's weight 4.63, which is probably a little bit high, but it's definitely in the fours, definitely. But this thing has a bucket load of rules and an hour-long setup and stuff like that. This thing is not an easy, heavy game, okay, people? You know, despite the fact that the fans would have you believe that anybody can get into this game. No, you friggin' can't, alright? Stop trying to lie to people about that. But, you know, this was a game that I tried, got on Kickstarter, enjoyed it enough to review it and say, look, this is fine for solo, but I'll never play it multiplayer again. But yeah, there's no way I was keeping it. I mean, I could never get the game played. You have to relearn all the rules all the time. And I was constantly rules checking because there's so much iconography everywhere. Yes, it's Ian O'Toole, but that doesn't mean it's all crystal clear. You still have to think, well, hang on a minute. So if the Voidborn attack at this point, hang on, do they take off 1 piece or 2 piece? So how does this orange corruption affect my board compared to that? Oh, I don't know. There's a lot to deal with here. Too much for me to want to own it, certainly. But yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah, there's not many games... I mean, games that I recommend that I wouldn't own. Because I must admit, a lot of games that I really like, I've already owned. And there may be games that I enjoy playing, but I wouldn't necessarily own it. Like, a friend of mine had... Oh, actually, I know, I can think of a good idea. Millennium Blades. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That one was a good fun game if you want to get into the theme. The theme is, like, it's silly. I mean, you're basically building up a... CCG. You're building up a card game deck and going into tournaments with it. The theme is incredibly meta. Yeah, players who are playing the greatest CCG in the universe. I mean, if you have come from a background where you've played this sort of game, it is so meta. The jokes will flow, and it's just it's a silly game, but you know, you've got a little speed round where you're trying to open booster packs and get cool cards and then create a really cool thing to go in your tournament, like get the deck box and stuff. I mean, the theme is so dripping off this game. But a friend of mine owns it, same friend who had Feudum, actually, and I play it every now and again with him at a convention, but cool blimey, there is way too much going on in this game to be able to teach it easily. There is way too much just generally going on for it. It is massive. You could spend tons of money getting all the expansion packs for it. I certainly do recommend giving this one a try, especially if you think this theme is going to appeal to you. But God almighty, I would never own it. There's no way in hell's teeth I would back this and try and get it into my collection, because it would just never see the light of day. And that's kind of the deal. You know, if a game is small enough that it will get played, then I'm probably happy to own it in my collection. Campaign games could be another thing. You know, there could be some campaigns out there that are really good, but I've played the campaign and I've played it once. Why would I necessarily own it, especially if somebody else is going to teach me the campaign? It's a bit like that. Alright, okay. Matthew says, is the board industry sustainable? In its current form. Yeah, this one's a little bit more of a iffy one, because the thing is that I am a little bit concerned about that. You know, I reckon the board game industry has still got quite a bit of life in it, but the issue I have is that innovation is really dropping lately. Like, games are just not coming out with unique themes or unique mechanics or anything like that. You know, a lot of stuff is being rehashed. I mean, I've got to do the Essen preview. I've already gone through Tabletop Together and like collated gone through their list and said, right, here are the games that I reckon I'll like or have a look at. It's a short list, people. It really is. I mean, over 1,000 games. And I can't find more than 30 or so that I'm even remotely interested in, okay? You know, because this isn't 30 games that I like and want. This is 30 games that I rate as maybe or above, I wouldn't ignore, out of 1,000. Now, granted, you would disregard anything that was not in English. You would, and some of these are only demo onlys. But yeah, it's still a lot of games that are coming out, and I am just basically not seeing stuff that I like. And what I'm worried about is that, you know, we have already gone through the big bubble stage, right? There was a big... We were getting games since 1995 with Catan, when the Europeans came over and showed us how to make games. And the idea with this was that, you know, games progressed from there, and so many were released each year. Not that many, but they were more memorable when they came out and were really good. But then from 2010, 2011, right, they started getting a bit more frequent. And 2012 was like a big bubble burst, where games just started getting made in droves. And 2012 was one of the best years for board gaming. Like, there was so much good stuff that came out in 2012. But the thing is, ever since 2012, the amount of games that gets released has gone off the scale. And these days, so many games get released. Maybe not as bad as, say, 2020, 2019 sort of time. You know, there certainly was a lot more in the late teens. But even still these days, there's still quite a lot of games that get released. And, there's just only so many really good ones. I play a lot and they're like, yeah, this is fine, but this already exists and that already exists and this is not giving me anything new. So, yeah, in a vacuum, it's fine, but when I already have this, why would I have this? There's a lot of this that I'm encountering, and you could argue that maybe that's not burnout. What's the word to use? When you play something loads and then eventually, I don't know actually. What would you call it? Not spite. I'm trying to think, but it's the one where you start seeing this. You play a lot of games and then you start getting less and less excited about them. But it's not to say I'll never get not excited about board games, but I just think the board game industry really does need to start working on some of its innovation, because if it just keeps subscribing to Kickstarter practices and releasing the same stuff over the time, then people are going to get bored. But there are a lot of people that will just buy the new thing because it's the new thing. But we want to get new people into the hobby, and we want to be putting out games that are fantastic, not just adequate. But I think we're sustainable for a fair while, but we also have to consider cost. The cost of manufacturing has gone up quite a bit, and cost of delivery around the world has gone up quite considerably, along with taxes for things like UK VAT and that. So a lot of people are going to get priced out of the market, and publishers are going to find it very expensive to make games without cutting corners. So if costs don't start stabilizing soon across the world, you may find that some publishers are just not able to hack it anymore and really do have to find some way to make money. And I think we might start seeing some publishers drop out as a result. All right, any favorite article? Blimey, 46 minutes and I've barely even tapped this. It's going to be a long episode, guys. Deal with it. Let's see. Any favorite artists? Single artists, it's hard to tell, because there are some games that I know have fantastic artists, but then you go and look it up and then it's like 5 separate people. I was thinking, Mystic Vale. Mystic Vale's got a really nice set of art to it. And then you go to Mystic Vale and there's 5 artists. No, there's like more than that. There's like, this is all the artists. There's like nine artists on this game. For crying out loud, who do I point to in particular? Dog Park was one I looked at before. Dog Park's got some great art. But then if I look at Dog Park, Dog Park, Doggy Park. Here we go. Artist Kate Avery, Holly Exley, and Dan May. For crying out loud, there's 3 artists there. So it's like, who do I point to as a unique artist? Well, I did mention Beth Sobel earlier. Not gonna lie, Beth Sobel does some fantastic art. Let's see, Wingspan would probably be a good example. Yes, I know there was other people that also did. Yeah, we've got Anna Marie Martinez and Natalia. So there are a few, but let's click on Beth Sobel and get on there. So Viticulture, Calico, Wingspan, Cascadia. That's just a few, but then there's loads here where her art's gone on to games, and they do look good. They do certainly look good. And I think when I start thinking of art in games, I'm more interested in the nature themes. Nature looks good when you make it look good, right? Whereas a nice looking picture of some guy in armor with a sword or whatever, it gets boring after a while. Yeah, you can make it look good, but it's like, whatever, seen it. But there is so much beauty that you can get in a picture. Just look at this photo already, all right? So, ignoring Beth there for a sec, look at the background there. This mountainscape, the forest, that lake. That is a beautiful piece of scenery, and that's just a random photograph. You draw that, you can really make things look great. But let's, a few games of note. Meadow is one that I can think of. Meadow, does that only have 1 artist? Yes. Oh no, 2. Who else has done that one? Katazi, I can't even pronounce that, but the main one on there is Carolina Gijak. I'm going to mince these names, I'm so sorry, but Meadow, whoo-wee, does that look gorgeous. Look at this game. This game is so beautiful, and, certainly I want to see more games with this person's art. In fact, actually, this one comes to note as one like a very beautiful game. What else has she done? Meadow. Is it only Meadow? Meadow's the only thing she's done. Wow, okay, so Meadow's the only thing she's done. Well, please do other games, because you're very good at it. So therefore I want to see more. Wild Gardens, I mentioned recently. that one. So I don't think there's necessarily an artist that I go, oh, I love this person's art. But there's a theme that I like, and I love nature art. So Wild Gardens is Alyssa Minold. So Alyssa Ann. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that one right, but so what's she done? She's done a few games that I haven't really heard of or done much, like Encounter Shadowrun and the Keystone games. But Wild Gardens, I dare you to play Wild Gardens and not drool at some of this artwork. I mean, this isn't even the best artwork in the game, and that is the front cover. But this game is friggin' gorgeous, okay? It looks beautiful. It is colorful. Check out my review where I showcase a lot more of it with some of my Instagram photos, but it's a beautiful game. Look at these cards. Look at that food. I want to eat all that food on those cards. It looks so delicious because the art is just good. Now, there are a few artists that people talk of highly and say, oh, yeah, we should talk about these. So the Miko is one in particular. So when you consider things like Architects of the West Kingdom, his art is on a lot of games. I like and don't like his artwork. It does kind of vary. Where is he? Artist. Oh, yeah. This was the joke I made in an episode where he's known as the Miko, and then I said, right, why don't we actually pronounce him by his real name? And then I put that on there, and it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm happy with the Miko. But yeah, he's done a lot of games. I mean, look at this. There's quite a few there. All the Valerias, the West Kingdoms, the South Tigris, the North Seas. Yeah, he does a lot. Endless Winter was another one that looked really good. And certainly Endless Winter is a very nice looking game. But the human faces are a little bit weird from his artwork. But generally it does still look really nice. I mean, his artwork is very good. And I do like to see it in games. So certainly he's definitely one of noteworthiness. You could technically argue that Ian O'Toole is one, but Ian O'Toole's not so much about good art. He's more about good graphic design. So, it's great when you see his name on the box to go, oh, okay, the iconography will at least be a lot easier than it can be. But it's not that he makes the games look gorgeous. It's just the fact that he makes them much more functional. So any other particular artist of note? I mean, like I say, it's nature-themed games that really get me. Earth. Does Earth even have an artist on it? Or is Earth just photographs? I thought Earth was just photographs. Let's have a look. Well, MBI M81 Studio, Economic. So there's quite a few on there. But yeah, it's hard to tell what's art and what's photography in that one. So, what else? Although I like photography used as a medium. Any other ones that I can think of? Noteworthy art. I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's really a favourite artist. Some games just have amazing art and some games have styles that I'm not a fan of. I mentioned that I don't like the art in Arcs, the Leader Games stuff, but then that's just a personal preference. But some games just come out with gorgeous art and I like them, and then that might be the artist only game. Like, here we go, Floriferous. These flower cards look absolutely gorgeous. Look at that picture. Man, that looks beautiful. And again, nature themes. Who's the artist? Again, if I can even pronounce this, Clementine Campardo. And how many games has she done? A little bit of Wormspan, Delicious, which is another game in that kind of range, Rolling Realms, and that's about it. So they haven't exactly done that many games, but it's art that I really adore. I could probably ask, actually, Dale of Merchants. I like the art with this series. So this is Snowdell Design, so the designer also is the artist, so this is Sammy Laxo's art. Very friendly guy, and pretty much all this stuff. I mean, he did a bit of Petrichor and a bit of Days of Ours. So okay, so all right, so he's done a few others that aren't Dale of Merchants related or Dawn of Peacemakers, basically that setting. Peacemakers as it's called. So yeah, so he did a couple of others. Petrichor had pretty good art actually, but wasn't that great a game. Actually, yeah, that's not saying it. No, Petrichor is quite boring. But Dale of Merchants. So let's get into Dale of Merchants collection. That will do. Let's have a look at some of this card artwork. Oh, this is prototype stuff. So, let's look at the front cover. That's a better one. Yeah, so let me look at that. This art that you use of all these animals and that looks beautiful. You can imagine a TV series with this sort of artwork. It really does look good. And if I can find some cards that aren't, yeah, this is like some of the player power cards you can get. Look at this. Man, it looks good. But it's repeated in a lot of other stuff. So, Peacemaker's Horrors of War, I did a review on that one. The artwork in this, again, looks beautiful. I mean, this is a very nice looking map with a lot of pieces. The cards have got really nice artwork. I suppose other artwork I could say. Last one is Empires of the Void. So Ryan Lockett. Does Ryan Lockett? Yep, Ryan Lockett does his own art. And, I mean, need I say more? Look at this board for Empires of the Void. Need I say more that this guy knows how to draw? So... but then he designed... I mean, it's kind of weird, actually, because we've got Ryan Lockett, and we've just had Sammy Laxo. So these are people who design and art their own games. I wonder if that's a bit of a trend, that the people who design and draw for their own games seem to be very good at doing the drawing part, as well as obviously designing the games, but I'm not saying they're good at one and bad at the other. But yeah, like when they do the same thing both, you normally expect one thing to suffer because it's a lot to do. But Brian Lockett, Sammy, these games look beautiful. I wonder if that might be a thing, actually, if I see it in the future. If I notice that the designer and the artist is the same person, would that instantly sort of turn me on to the game a bit more? We shall see. So yeah, those are some noteworthy artists I can think of, but really I think it comes down to a theme. Nature and animals. It's really hard to make them look bad, and if you can make them look good, I'm going to sing it from the rooftops. But these days, there are so many talented artists that you can get without having to use AI that it's hard to make your game look bad. If your game has sucky artwork, I'll call it out, because in this day and age, there should be no excuse for your game looking bad, because there's so many good artists. Right. Also, opinions on Kickstarter. General opinions. I certainly don't like Kickstarter as much as I used to. I really don't. I used to use it a lot. Like, I used to back a lot of games. But nowadays, it's too expensive. And some of that is because I live in the UK. So, yes, Brexit happened, annoyingly. And it makes things very expensive to ship to the UK. Shipping and tax is insane. But Kickstarters are getting quite expensive to buy. I mean, you don't buy a Kickstarter because it's good value. You buy it because you're getting it early. Same goes for convention prices. They're never good deals. It's just you're getting the game earlier than other people. That's why you go to them and buy them there. But yeah, I find myself backing so little on it now. I mean, I made a stance that 99.5% of my content was not going to be Kickstarter related now. Now, there are exceptions. I mean, I mentioned this one earlier on, but I already like Lands of Galzier, so it's not like I'm going to think... it's not like this expansion could be garbage. I expect it will probably be decent, but I'm also only previewing what's in it. I'm not saying whether the game is great or not. But, there are little exceptions like this where I'll go, all right, fine, I will do a little bit of Kickstarter preview content. Rebirth, that I've still got down there in a prototype form, was kind of an exception to the rule, but then I got a good rapport with my e-boards and very nice people, and I thought I'd give it a look anyway. Paul Grogan was looking at it, so I thought I'd look at it as well. But usually I stay away from Kickstarter content. But I find myself just not backing it anymore. I'm sick and tired of Kickstarter practices that you have. So you have the idea that, these stretch goals are the usual, I'll just dump a solo mode in because people want a solo mode. And, we weren't going to do these upgrades before, but now that you've given us money, I guess we'll do it. It's like, no, you already planned to have this stuff. Expansions. I hate it with Kickstarter, and they're going, right, because you've given us so much money, we're going to put in all these cool expansions. It's like, no, you had this originally, you just chopped the game into little bits and then sold it to us piecemeal. This is a shady tactic. It happens with video games and DLC as well, and I want it to stop immediately. But and there's just a lot of these things I don't like with Kickstarters, but I back so little now because it's costly, and I find that a lot of these games, you get them and they're not as good as you want, and then you got to go and sell them. And then when you sell them, you see people scalping like crazy. Like, I ordered this Kickstarter, it cost me £150. Right, do you want to buy all the kit? Pay me £300. Sod off. All right. If I sell a Kickstarter, I recoup my funds, okay? I get back what I paid, plus the shipping and tax, maybe a tiny extra to cover postage and stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm trying to recoup about 90%, 100% of the cost for a Kickstarter if I bought it, tried it, and decided it's not for me, right? I do not quadruple the frickin' value of the Kickstarter to then set it on. I sold all my Tainted Grail stuff recently, okay, because I love Tainted Grail, but I've now completed it all. There's no point hanging it on my shelf. I sold like Season 1 and Season 2 for about £150 each, right? And in fact, I might have even gone less than that, I'm like 130. The content's easily worth 250 in those bundles. But I'm not trying to scalp people by thinking that after so many years I can get back the full value of it. I want people to enjoy this game, and by selling it cheaper, they will. But man, there's some scalpers out there. But yeah, I just don't back stuff anymore. I mean, if I share here, so this is I've got nothing on GameFound at the moment, right? Everything on GameFound's been delivered. This is what I've got as backed projects. Now this tick shows it's already arrived. I've only got 3 projects that are still not yet arrived. But you can see from some of these ones that I did earlier that I backed a lot more in the past. So if I scroll down all the way to here, so all from the likes of Burning Suns ages ago. So 2014, right, that's a sort of early year, getting into it. So all of these ones with estimated deliveries, right? 2016, 16, 17, 16, 16, 17, 16, 16, 17, 16, 16, 17, 18, 17, 17, 17, 18, 18, 18, 18. So there's a load of these games here that all were coming out in about the same sort of period, and I was backing them. And look at all these funds here. And this is like coming out of my own pocket. So I don't use Patreon funds to do Kickstarters. That's my own bag. So this is me spending spare cash on the hip. You know, well, I say spare, probably shouldn't have spent this much on them, but most of the times this was me treating myself. But here you go, 18, 18, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19. God blimey, 2019, I backed a ton of stuff. This is kind of ridiculous. 19, 19, 20, 20, 20, 19, 20, 20. So COVID hadn't hit at this point, but 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 21, 21, 20, 20. So there's loads of these games. Now watch as we get beyond, say, Voidfall and that. So 23, 22, 23, 22, 23, 23. Oop, that's already stopped. 24, 24, 24, 24, 24. 5 games with a 24 delivery date. Now, what are these 24? Shipwrights of the North Sea, Redux. Deep Rock Galactic expansions, which was expensive. Obsession, Characters expansion. Inventors of the South Tigris, and the Earth Abundance expansion. That's it. And most of those are expansions. Earth Abundance expansion. Well, I like Earth. Of course I'm going to like this. Obsession. I like Obsession. Of course I'm going to want an expansion. Deep Rock Galactic, same thing. And the other 2 are all Garfield games, who have a track record of reliable and well-priced Kickstarters. They don't try and scalp you with stretch goals or hidden agendas and stuff. They just tell it how it is and say, look, this is what we need. This is what we need to make it. Here's a decent enough price. It's comparable to what I would pay retail for. And I get it a bit sooner. So yes, I'm willing to chuck some money your way, Garfield Games, for your games, because you make good games. And you are honest with your Kickstarter practices. If I see a Kickstarter page that spends more of its time showing off its miniatures before it even gets to how the game plays, I'm turned off the Kickstarter and I couldn't care less. You know, because I know that this Kickstarter is just trying to sell me on miniatures, and you've lost me at that point. But, you know, a lot of these games I've bought, have I kept many of them though? I mean, let's see. Endless Winter, haven't played it in a while. Vindication, yes, although the expansions are a bit hit and miss. Stellaris is yet to be delivered. That one's been on for ages. That was meant to be delivered in 22. It's still not anywhere near finished. Fall of the Mountain King, sold it. Edge of Darkness, love it. Don't get it played that often though. Let's see. Septimer, bought it, didn't like it. Check out my review, sold it. Fox Experiment, bought it, was okay, but very clunky, very messy, sold it. Other ones in the past I have bought and sold. Cabbage Head Garden, bought it, sold it. Perseverance, bought it, sold it. Nemesis, bought it, sold it. Hell Last Saga, yeah, don't get me started on that controversy, so that's never going to happen. There you go, sad face. Great Wall, bought it, sold it. Namiji, bought it, sold it. Destinies, bought it, sold it. Dwellings of Eldervale, bought it, liked it at first, sold it, got boring. Ephephils, bought it, sold it. I mean, it's like loads of these games I bought and sold because they just didn't really stand the test of time and weren't worth the money I paid. So I am very picky about my Kickstarter stuff now, and so I do have a negative opinion on Kickstarter. I think most of the time the practices are shady and are just scalping money out of people who get excited. And also, this generates all the preview content that I hate. The ones where people are just basically doing adverts, where the same people, and we know what content creators these are, who come out and just do the same. Hey, here's a game. I like it. You should buy it. Totally. Give us money. Go give money. Go join the page and pay money because I've spoken about it. Stop it, all right? I don't like that sort of content. I don't watch it, and I don't give two monkeys. I mean, if anybody comes out with a video, I don't care if it's, Board Game Co, Finger Femur, or whatever, all these other people who, do preview content, like why back it and stuff. I don't care. Not interested. I'm not here to watch an advert. I will look at the page. I will look at the game and decide whether I want to buy it or not, based on my own experiences. I'm not willing to watch a video advert to try and coax me into buying it. It's not happening. So, yeah, just not a fan of Kickstarter in general, so I am very much more picky about what I back. I mean, these ones I backed like, early in the year? So the last one I probably backed was Earth Abundance Expansion. That would have been it. And then Inventors early in the year. Nothing on Kickstarter has got me remotely interested. And I say that. Valheim, Don't Starve. Could be backing them, we shall see, although I'd like to get some review copies of those preferably. But then those are ports of video games that I really enjoy, so I've got more interest in them. Good blimey, we're over an hour and 5. I need to really shoot through some of these questions. Do I keep game stats? No. Hate keeping game stats. I record my plays most of the time. I do forget a lot of the time on Board Game Geek, mainly to track what sort of games I've played in general over a year, but also sometimes I have to do it to keep the naysayers happy, who usually come onto my videos whenever I give a bad opinion and say, oh, you just didn't play the game enough. How many times did you play the game? Did you play it at least 12 times? In which case, no, you don't get to do it. And it's like, for God's sake, these people are cretins. But, and I mean, I remember getting an argument with somebody about arcs, and I said I played the game 10 times, like 10 times in the week or something. And you'd think that's plenty enough times to play the game to get a decent review coverage of it, right? And apparently that was not enough, because I also said that I played them within the course of about a week and a half, 2 weeks, because I was trying to do a reasonable, good turnaround on it. Apparently, I was supposed to take a vacation or something and let the thoughts dwell in my mind over time and, let them sink so I could, embrace the majesty of this game. Shut up! I mean, God blimey. I played the game 10 times. That is enough time there. It doesn't matter if I play it 10 times within a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. My thoughts weren't going to change, and they still have not changed about arcs. What I said in the review still stands, okay, even a month later. And it just boggled my mind that even 10 times wasn't enough. So what is the point of game stats? I record the plays for my own personal benefit. It's still not enough for the naysayers who come on videos and have a problem with my verdicts. So there's no point recording it for them. But I also don't like the whole game stats with the app, where people record who they played with, what the scores were, what drinks you had that time, what was the weather like, was it a Tuesday, was somebody wearing a red coat at this point? I don't know. You can record so much stupid stuff on these game stat apps, and I just don't find them useful. I mean, do these people sit on an armchair? Are they going to sit in an armchair when they get to 60, 70 years old, and they're in a nursing home or whatever, and they're basically sort of rocking back and forth, and they're going to look back on their old device that's probably antiquated by this point, and sort of go, oh yes, that was really good. Yes, I played this game of brass with Adrian and Vivian at this point. Oh, that was nice, and I won by 3 points. Why do you track this much information? I think we track too much information. I sort of, way more than we need to track. As I've never got the idea why a lot of these people keep game stats. And if you do, fine. It's no bugbear to me that you do it. You do it. It's not encroaching on me. You go ahead and do it. What do you care what I think? But I've just never really understood it. Go-to games. So cheers, Jonathan, for that one. Also from you, go-to games for family events. I mean, this is specific for my family, but with my family, I'd like to say with any family, you got to keep the game simple, okay? My family enjoy games. They are not die-hard gamers. They do not understand complex rules, and my parents are in their 70s, okay? So I have to keep things very simple. But we have games that we all like as a family. Ticket to Ride, Splendor, yeah, Cascadia. Yeah, there's a few of these nice simple games that are gateway level that they really enjoy. But I don't take things like Seven Wonders to them. I tried Wingspan. That was a mistake. Way too much information. But I mean, we've got the Ticket to Ride, Splendor, and Cascadia, and Sushi Go and stuff like that because we love those games. So they are always go-to. But if I'm ever going to show them other games, I keep it very simple. And we're talking gateway level. We're talking really simple games, filler games, family weight, not complex at all. They've got to be gateway level. So like Alice's Garden was a good one. Barren Park worked before. Just One, works. So I keep it very simple. But then, is it a go-to game that I would take to every family event? The fact is that this is what my family have played and what they enjoy. Your family may never have played those games, in which case you've got different go-to family games. But yeah, I mean, we are talking the classic gateway stuff. And as I say, if our game bag has got Cascadia, Ticket to Ride, Splendor, and Sushi Go in it, we're set for days, really. Right. Lydia says, how have your tastes changed over the years? Ooh, blimey. Quite a bit, actually. When I started, I was mainly playing lighter games and lots of co-ops and very thematic games. Now, I do still play mostly thematic games here. I do respect theme in the game more. But my tastes have definitely evolved to the point where I'm playing more heavier games. Because I don't want things to be stupidly complicated, but I still like the Vitalisur, the stuff behind me head. And I still like, some complex, heavy Euros. I like to get my brain thinking, but I like a good theme with them. So that's never changed. But I've definitely appreciated and like to play heavier stuff now. And I'm playing less of the lighter stuff. And it's not to say I don't enjoy the lighter stuff. And I still review it and I still want it to be nice for teaching games. But games like Camelot, are a light game I might have played more in the old days. But I don't find myself playing it that much now, even though I respect it as a gateway game. But there's a few lighter stuff here. I mean, Reef, that's been on my shelf for a while over there. And, it's a sister to Azul, basically. And haven't really played it that much. Yinch, a couple of other these abstract games. Just haven't really played many of those lately. Certainly going off two-player only games. But, there's not really any theme that I've got more into. I mean, I like drafting. I've spoken about mechanics I like. There's obviously themes I like. I think mainly the two things I can think of is that I'm definitely getting more and more into heavier games. So more of the complex stuff, that taxes the brain. But I think also I'm waning a bit off social deduction games. I still like some social deduction games, but rather than play any of them that I see, I am definitely more picky. Deception in Hong Kong or whatever it is, fantastic social deduction game. One Night Werewolf, cool, but I'd rather play Werewords, which I think is probably the best of the 5-10 minute social deduction games. You could argue that Detective Club is kind of a social deduction game. I mean, it kind of is, but this thing I think is amazing. In fact, when did I say I was going to take this? I said I was going to go to a game club with this. Not Bognor, not Southampton. Maybe it was the all-day event. Yeah, a couple of the all-day events, I think it was. Yeah, but I need to remember which event that was, because obviously I want to take it next time. But yeah, social deduction, no, I've been playing a few lately, like Feed the Kraken and Blood on the Clock Tower, and both of those games I think are garbage. But yeah, I'm not as interested in the social deduction stuff anymore. I've got the few choice picks, but I'm starting to get burnt out on the fact that all the other social deduction games like to do the same thing, like the same arguments, the same way they play, and they're just not as fun anymore. But that's probably it. Other than that, I think my tastes have kind of stayed similar, really. Does general life rub off on your mood for games? Yes, I get a few people questioning whether I'm too much of a grouchy pants or something. And the thing is that, it's not like it's not a fake persona, but certainly my online YouTube persona is a little bit more grouchy than I think I would be in real life. I mean, if I turn up at your house for like a board game and that, I'm happy-go-lucky. I'm offered to cook. I'll bring drinks. We'll have a great time, a good laugh. And when I'm at my clubs, I'm there having a good laugh. Now, I mentioned 2 games earlier that I thought were terrible that I played last Tuesday, right? We were still having fun, and I was still having a good time and joking around with the people that were there, because I wasn't the only person who thought the games were bad. But we were having a laugh. It's not like I'm sitting there going, this stupid. It's like, no, that's not how I act in real life. But certainly if I'm on the camera talking about a game, I'm very opinionated. So, yeah, if we're going to have a discussion about whether I like or dislike something, I'm going to be blunt and I'm going to say why I dislike something. But on the camera, there's probably a little bit of extra embellishment that goes into the whole moody side of things. But yeah, it's not like I'm a grouchy guts in real life, at least not all the time. It does vary. But the one was there, it's like, does general life rub off? Possibly. Because I got to admit, somebody like suggested, like, maybe it's just been a bad summer and that's kind of had an effect. And it could well be. I mean, my summer has been quite sucky and it generally does suck most years. I don't like the excessive heat and sweating all the time, especially in this house. I don't like the way my work piles up in this period. I don't go on holiday in the summer because it's too expensive, there's too many kids and it's too hot. So I can't really take a break to calm down or anything. Many of my friends go off and do their own holidays, whether it's like couples or kids and stuff, which means I, get lonely because there's not enough people around. And yeah, the summer is just not a particularly fun period for me. So maybe there is an element of that does rub off onto the videos, which is difficult to really avoid. It's just your natural mood is going to have an impact on what you do. But then you might notice that I get a lot more excitable when it's autumn because I love autumn, more stuff is happening, more conventions, and I'm going through all the Essen stuff, which means all these new games to play. So I guess an element of that does rub off on my mood when I'm like doing this channel. And yeah, I try my best to separate the two or not have real life impact blog stuff, but it's a very tricky thing to do. It's easier said than done. And it's not that it's like every season the mood will change. I mean, it's really just the summer. I'm perfectly content in autumn and winter, and even spring is fine. But I guess just that June to early September period, or certainly June, July, and August, when it's just very hot, it's uncomfortable. I don't like being hot and sweaty when I'm in clothing. It's fine when you're in the gym or in a sauna or something like that, but I don't like having to walk around my house and worry about whether I'm sticking to half of the furniture. And it's uncomfortable to work. My head boils. My brain just feels hot. I mean, it's hot in this room at the moment, and my brain feels like it's cooking. Like I'm gonna have to cool down, put an ice cube on my head or something after this. It does have an impact, I guess. It's not an unreasonable argument. I'll try to separate it, but yeah, does it rub off? I guess it does. I mean, isn't that true for everything? Mimi's got a good one here. If no channel, would you buy that many games? No, I would not. The only reason this channel can keep going, as I said, is the Patreons. The Patreons keep this channel going because a lot of publishers don't want somebody talking bluntly about their games, so I don't get review copies from them. I've messaged a bunch of people for Essen, and the ones who respect what I do and that, yeah, they're more than happy to send me stuff. They know I'll talk honestly about it, good and bad, but they respect what I do and they'll send it. Some publishers don't. Some people really hate the fact that there's a guy out there who's like willing to crap on your game if he doesn't like it. And so I never get stuff from them. And, I've emailed a bunch of people and some people will respond and some people will just completely blank me out. They won't straight up respond and say, no, we don't like what you do, because they obviously don't want to start a massive controversy. But, they will certainly blank me. And this is just something I've accepted. So a lot of the stuff I review, I have to get via, Patreon funds. The Patreons help pay for the subscriptions that this channel has to do, pay for upgrading equipment, maintaining the equipment, getting battery packs and, updating the microphones and stuff now and again, sorting out software. But, Adobe Premiere Suite is expensive, and so is StreamYard, and so is Motion Array that I get some of the funky intros and that from. The extra electricity and stuff like that to run it, but also they help with review copies. If they want me to review something like I put up a poll saying, like, look, there's 3 games I could review: Auron Labora, Empire's End, whatever. What do you want me to do? They said Empire's End. So I go out, buy the game, review it. Great, it's for them. They help out this channel, so occasionally I want them to decide what I review. But it's only because they help fund the channel that I can actually go out and say, right, I'm going to buy Empire's End, because I would have probably just skipped it otherwise and not been too fussed. But they wanted it, so I did it. And certainly I probably would not have a collection anywhere near this big. I mean, I've got this whole area with, this whole bit with, oh, hang on, here we go. Yeah, so, all of that, all of this. Now imagine that there's another 2 rows of this, so you're only seeing the top 2 rows. There's another 2 rows down there, but then also bear in mind you've got another 4x4 section in that room, and you've got another 4x4 downstairs full of games. There's a lot. I have a lot of games. If I wasn't doing this channel, there is no way I would buy this many. I would probably have what you see behind me. Maybe one other shelf if I was a bit of a kleptomaniac, but I would certainly not have got the one downstairs. That is purely because I've got the channel, because I need somewhere to store a lot of these games. But I'd be more picky. I'd be thinking, some of these games I might not have even tried if I didn't have the channel. So there's certainly going to be an aspect that, does running a channel influence the choices I make? In a way, it's this. I mean, if I didn't have the channel, I wouldn't be so obliged to try every single game in existence, and which I can't do anyway, and get them played. I would be more thinking, well, I've got this game, I don't desperately need that, but I'll try if it's there, because I've got no need to review it and speak my mind about it. But because I run a channel, I obviously need to play a bunch of games. And that's not to say I'm only playing a game because of the channel. I wouldn't enjoy myself otherwise. These are games that I do enjoy playing. But running the channel gives me the motivation and the Patreon funds to actually be able to do it. But, I don't think I would be able to, I've got 3 LCGs on the go. And, that is quite hard. Then I probably would only have 1 if I didn't have a channel. There are some games here that I've reviewed only because I've reviewed them for the channel, but they've been great games, and so I've kept them. So having the channel exposes me to a lot more games to actually play, and so it definitely had an impact on how many I own. I would never have this many without the channel. Not at all. All right. Throat is really going. Hour and 20 minutes, blimey, but we're more than halfway down this page. Why does high constant rankings bother me that much? Also from Mimi. So this is the whole thing that I hate it when channels just do nothing but rate things highly. There's this thing where I call my scale an actual 10-point scale. The reason I put the word actual in there is because it is actually 10 points. There are so many people that rank stuff out of 10, but literally their scale is only 7 or 7.5. I really hate decimal ratings. That really gets my goat. But 7 till 10. Nothing gets rated below 7, or at least very rarely does it. And I don't like this. I mean, why does it get on my nerves? Well, because I get it. And I think Mimi made a very good point about this, is that yes, consumers are for the most part intelligent enough to make up their own mind about whether they want something or not, regardless of what a creator says. Fantastic. But not everybody is. There are some people who literally will just take a creator's word as gospel and say, right, well, they love it, therefore I must have it. The shut up and sit down effect I mentioned before. I mean, as soon as they say a game is fantastic, everybody now wants to suddenly go out and buy it. That's the effect they have. Regardless of the fact that, for example, with Arcs, the guy reviewing it is a massive massive fan of the designer. So of course he's gonna love it. But Arcs is not for everybody. I enjoyed bits of it, but didn't like other bits of it. There are some people who are going to love that game, and it's going to be the best game they've ever played, in which case, fantastic. But you've got to understand that it's a niche game, and not everybody is going to like it. So not everybody should go out and suddenly buy it. But, I don't watch channels if I know that they're just going to say good about everything, because what benefit am I getting? There is only so much entertainment value you get from some channels. There are some channels that just review stuff and they're speaking very not melodramatically, not tone deaf, you know what I mean. They're speaking more like a professional corporation type video. There's not much emotion coming through, but they're getting the facts across, which is cool. It's what I want to know. But then they say this game is 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. They never say anything's bad. And it's if I don't believe that you dislike games, why would I ever trust your opinion on one that is good? You've got to do both. And there are some channels. I mean, there was do I follow any other channels? Some, but mostly they're small creators that I know in the UK and can trust that they will say good and bad stuff. I watch Paul Grogan's stuff. I watch, Mark Dainty and Dan from Chairman on the Board and Ninja Geek and, a bunch of the UK creators that are local and do say good and bad stuff about some games now and again. Some vary. But a lot of the big name channels I don't really watch anymore. Or ever really did, because again, it was just everything's good, everything's amazing. Or sometimes, the entertainment value takes over. There are some channels that are mainly just there for the entertainment as opposed to the actual review. Well, firstly, I want to watch to get details about a game, so I want the review part. But also, depending on where you're from continent-wise, the definition of humor is definitely one that's subjective, because I don't go around thinking that my videos are hilarious as hell. I use these video clips to make it a bit unique, and sometimes some jokes work, sometimes they don't. It's my style of humor though, but there's a lot of cringe style humor, which sadly American humor does sometimes get quite cringy at times. Not to say that Britain can't get a lot of cringy humor as well, but acting around like a wazzock on screen or something is not really something I desperately go for. Sketch shows are not something I tend to watch much often, so that kind of that type of comedy is not really for me. But that gets in the way sometimes of some reviews, and it's just I don't tend to follow that many channels apart from people that I know in the industry that I trust. And trust is a big thing. And the big part of the trust is I want you to tell me that you will dislike a game and publicly say you will. It's not enough for you to meet me in private and say, oh God, yeah, I really hated this game. This was terrible. And it's like, well, why didn't you review it? And say that. And a lot of the times people don't want to annoy designers or publishers. And it's like, look, if you are designing or publishing board games, then much like being a content creator, you got to put your big boy pants on or big girl pants on and, accept the fact that some people are not going to like the stuff you make. Okay. It's just going to happen. I make this channel and I do a bunch of videos. Some people love what I do. Some people can't stand my guts. It's going to happen. And yes, it can, have an effect on anxiety and, certainly does stress you out at times, but you have to accept that's a thing. Otherwise, don't do it. You can't, you don't, I mean, would people be nurses if they were? But yeah, people don't become nurses, because they think, oh, I'm going to earn a ton of money, or it's going to be a nice, easygoing job or something. No, they become nurses because they want to help people. They want to save lives. They want to take care of people. They get job satisfaction from it. They know it's stressful as hell. They know it's not the most well-paid job, but they do it because they want to, and they know what they're getting in for. But they accept that. The same has to go for designing, publishing, and creating stuff. So you've got to be prepared to say negative stuff about it, and it's your opinion at the end of the day. It's not like, oh, if I say a game's garbage, that means the game is objectively garbage and nobody should try it ever. It's like, no, I'm saying I think it's garbage. Somebody else might love it, in which case, watch their opinion as well. You can watch my video where I say I don't like a game. You can watch their video where they say they love the game. And you can make your own minds, because as was rightly pointed out by the person who suggested this question, most consumers are intelligent enough to make up their own minds. So, if I've at least got faith in that, then I know that things will work out. But yeah, there's no point having a point scale if you are 7 to 10 and nothing else. And some big channels are guilty of this, particularly the ones who like to use decimal ratings. I mean, decimal ratings are so stupid. I mean, you're not even willing to go from 1 to 6 on your 10-point scale. What difference does it make if you've got 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5? I mean, it feels like they're trying to stretch it. It's like, oh, we don't want to go to the lower end of the 10-point scale because that'd be nicer. Well, so how can we have a 10-point scale without actually having 10-point scale on it? Well, if we just cut our stuff in half decimals, we've got an extra 8 to 10 places there. There you go. There's our 10-point scale. No, something is either a 7 or an 8. What does 7.5 even mean anyway? What part of a game makes me go, I don't know whether to give this one a 7 or 7.5? I mean, what little thing about the game would suddenly pop it up 0.5%? It doesn't make any sense. Hey, blimey, I'm getting worked up. But yeah, why does it bother me that much? There's a bunch of reasons, and yeah, it still bothers me. If you're creating content, use an actual 10-point scale, or don't rate it. Just don't rate it in the first place and just say whether you like it or not. That'd probably be easier. Hey. Whew. Let's see, Matthew. There's not many questions left, so we're getting there. Process to color game. Usually, how often does it get played? Is a game played enough that it warrants being on the shelf? Now, I've got enough storage to house all the games I've got, but usually my stuff is now one in, one out. So if I'm going to keep another big game on the shelf, something's going to move. And then I look at the games and I go, right, what am I playing? What am I not? But also, what do I desire to play? I mean, I don't get to play Marvel Champions very often, but I'll enjoy it when I do, and I have desire to do it. New Angeles barely hits the table because of how niche it is, but man, do I enjoy it when I play it, so I know it's going to be solid. And is there a chance that I can get the game again? You know, if down the line I really think, oh yeah, I should have bought that again. I might have done it with Meadow, actually. Yeah, I think I got rid of Meadow and then I played it more and it's like, oh yeah, actually I really love Meadow. And now I bought it again. Fine, but if it's out of print, like, I can't remember the last time I played Chaos in the Old World. It's a cool game. I'd probably enjoy it if I played it now, but if I sell it, I ain't getting it again. It's like, it's gone for good. So that would have an effect on wanting to keep it. But usually, yeah, I mean, time length to play it, is it practical? I mean, Voidfall, as much as I got some enjoyment out of it, it was not practical to play multiplayer. Like, I mean, granted, I could probably play at conventions, but then I just play someone else's copy, and that's another factor. Does somebody else own the game that I'm likely to play? You know, Hegemony, other people will own it, but I love the game that much that I'm not going to get rid of it, and I can play it solo, which helps. You know, can I play it solo? Then that's another reason to keep the game. But yeah, it's a lot of factors. But you know, is it too long to play? Is it a bugbear to teach? Does anybody else own the game? When was the last time I played it? Do I have a desire to play it again? Because there are some games that I've culled where I'm like, I haven't played that one in a while, and yeah, I just don't feel like playing it. Yeah, so you know what, I'll get rid of it. And so that happens. So there's not really an easy, crystal clear process, but definitely those are factors that would fall into place. What would get you excited for a Kickstarter? Well, I mean, I kind of mentioned this briefly before, but I would say that nothing's really going to get me that excited for Kickstarters anymore, though. But if you create a game on a theme that is something unique but relatable and could be fun, and you're going to make it thematic, that could work. But I'm actually more excited for stuff that is based off IPs or video games that I really like. So I mentioned, like, you know, I love the Deep Rock Galactic stuff, but I'm interested to see what happens with Valheim and Don't Starve. These are two games that I've played a lot and still play Valheim on the PC. So stuff based on these, particularly as they're being made by publishers who I know who respect the theme, these get me excited. And I think video games could be a thing. I mean, Frostpunk got me really excited when that came out, and that's a really great game. You know, if it's a video game that I like or I know is popular and you are making a board game on Kickstarter for that, and I know you're going to pay homage to the theme and you're not just using it as a cut and paste job, that is what could get me excited for a Kickstarter these days. Otherwise, not really. But I mean, you've seen the stuff that was on my Kickstarter list before. You know, the Deep Rock Galactic expansions. I'm interested in Don't Starve. I'm interested in Valheim. I've got XCOM down there. I don't think that was Kickstarter, but still, you get my point. And Stellaris. Yeah, it's been delayed to high heaven, but Stellaris is a game I've played on the PC and therefore was interested in a game to represent it. So I think that's the main thing, actually. I think board game ports of video games are the ones that are going to get me excited. Top 3 most expensive board games. Oh boy. Cool, Matthew, you had a fair few questions here. Top 3 most expensive. And why do I invest in them? To be honest, I mean, there are some games that I've played a good couple $100 on because they were Kickstarter projects. I mean, Frostpunk was a costly one. Sentinels in the Multiverse. Cool, blimey, I've bought a lot of that. I mean, yeah, the original Sentinel Multiverse, I spent a lot of money on those cards, but it's one of my favorite co-op games ever, and it's superhero themed and everything, so yeah, of course I was going to love that one. The LCGs that I've got, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Champions, and Arkham Horror, they're probably my most expensive games, though, because they've had packs and packs and packs and packs, and I keep buying them. Why do I keep investing in them? Well, firstly, because they're really good games, but also I got to admit, I am starting to retract on this. I mean, I'd already got to a point with Lord of the Rings that I had everything for it, so I was a bit late on that one. But I'm actually stopped buying more Arkham stuff. I might buy single scenario packs, but I haven't bought any of the Hemlock Vale stuff at all. I stopped after, I can't remember the name of the latest one. It was the Red Scarlet one. Yeah, the Scarlet Keys. bought that one, played it, was very disappointed by how that worked, and then I haven't had the desire to play anything after that. But the single scenario ones are just ones that I can get out, have a deck, have it pre-created or something, or maybe go on NetDeck or whatever the internet site is, ArkhamDB, and build a deck and just play single scenarios to get it done. I'm getting frustrated with doing massive 8-long campaigns though, which is putting me off Arkham Horror. Marvel Champions, I don't like the campaigns in these big boxes at all. I think their power creep is too hard. I don't like doing campaigns in general now. I'm just kind of wanting to do single scenario stuff, but Marvel Champions lends itself better to quicker deck construction and doing single scenarios. So if I was to get rid of 2 out of 3 of my LCGs, Lord of the Rings and Arkham, easily. I love all 3 of the games, but this one's the most practical to get to the table. But in terms of, if we're going to ignore LCGs, Mansions of Madness certainly sucked up a fair bit of price, but Mansions of Madness is a really solid thematic game. And again, scenario-based, not campaign. Frostpunk was quite pricey, but was it? I don't know. Was Frostpunk that exactly pricey? What to say? Pursuit of Happiness. I got a lot of expansions for it, but I wouldn't say it was like one of the most costly games I've got, but there is a buckload of cards in there. Oh, Edge of Darkness. Oh, God blimey, that was quite expensive because AEG don't know how to do cheap Kickstarters. They're kind of like Queen games in that respect. But yeah, Edge of Darkness, the base game, and all the expansions. That's cost a fair bit, but it is a massive crate box. Check out my old review for it, and it is a fantastic game when it does get played. But I know that when I play it, it's going to be great fun, solo or with the friends I've got who also like the game. But yeah, that one's a pretty expensive one. Sentinels of the Multiverse, already mentioned. I love the game to bits. Bought every card, old and definitive edition. So yeah, if the game is excitable enough for me that when I play it, I get so much joy out of it, I will spend money on it. I will invest in time over it. But some games which, like I say, Arkham LCG, where they've reached a plateau where I'm like, how easy is it to get this game to the table, and am I enjoying it as much to warrant extra money? Marvel Champions is not that expensive to keep up with, and I do enjoy it, and I love superheroes, so that one is getting a bit more love. But Arkham Horror has, I think, reached a plateau. I think it's reached a point where it's done all it can from a creative standpoint, and now I'm like, I don't recognize these investigators. I don't really care about these settings that much. You know what? I think I'm good. I've reached a point. And certainly these days, I'm getting a bit more picky on what I spend my money on. Not many left. What themes do I want to see more of? Let's see. When it comes to themes, like I say, I'm bored with rehashing the same stuff all the time. I'd just like to see new themes that are relatable. I keep making a big deal about Kanban EV, and to a lesser extent, I guess, the Gallerist and I suppose Vinyos in that respect. But Kanban EV has a really strong theme. You're working in a car factory, you're making cars, you're dodging your boss who is constantly looking over your shoulder, and yes, the design process of building a car is a lot more complex than Kanban does. That's not an argument. But the theme is so strong. You feel like you're in this factory, you're doing all this cool car stuff. Everybody knows what it's like dodging the annoying boss who's looking over their shoulder. Hell, I'm having to deal with people looking over my shoulder currently in my current job. So it's the theme is relatable as well as being interesting and fun. Who is interested in 19th century industrial revolution building train tracks and factories anymore? So many games have got this theme and it is just boring. Medieval style games, boring, but then I like farming. Farming games are great. We don't have that many farming games, do we? Honestly? You might think, well, hang on, there's a bunch of farming games out there. Yeah, who designed them all? Yeah, pretty much Uwe Rosenberg has the king of farming games. Anybody else? Any other designer want to do a farming game? Why does Uwe Rosenberg have the monopoly on farming games? I'm sure other people could. I'd like to see that. Come on, Garfield Games. Could one of your Tales of the East section, or whatever your new trilogy is going to be called, can you do one in there that's farming themed? That'd be cool. I'd play it. I'd certainly want to try it. But yeah, I'd like to see more farming games. Nature's being done to death. So I think there's only so much we can do with nature, even though they are fun, nice themes. But I can't really think of a specific theme. Like, I want to see this in the game, because they wouldn't necessarily work that well. Yeah, I mean, I've thought like, oh yeah, making your own movies could be a really cool thing. Well, we have seen that sort of in games, but mostly from a auction bidding or dry game. But yeah, running a movie theater or yeah, running a movie publishing thing or something as a thematic game would be quite cool. Predaporter. Now, I've sold the game. My rating has dropped for it a tiny bit, but I still thought it was a very unique, cool Euro. That was about running a fashion show and getting like the right dresses and putting them at a show and being popular in that. And it's like, that was really unique and different, but still relatable. It made sense. I know nothing about fashion. I wear the same stuff pretty much all week, but we all know how they function. We know we've seen fashion shows, we've seen the whole glitz and glamour with them, so it's relatable. It's not something that we could possibly have no idea how it would work, particularly if it's something that's based hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It's like, yeah, you can come up with whatever historically themed game about X Empire in the year 23 BC or something. I wouldn't know. Garfield Games are doing a bit like that at the moment. They keep making these spin-off games like Ezra and Nehemiah or whatever it's called, and some of these other ones they've got announced. And I'm like, I don't know the first thing about these settings. And let's face it, Garfield Games don't really do thematic games, period. Their games are great, but they're not really what I would call thematic, you know. So you've already got a theme that I know nothing about, that can't relate to, probably not interested in, and your theme's not that strong in the game anyway, so why do I care? Yeah, it's not how it's going to work. But yeah, I can't think of a specific theme, but I would like to see more relatable themes. Let's have themes that make sense, like in the present day, that we've seen. We don't necessarily have to experience it ourselves, but we've seen it, and let's make it rich. Let's make a good thematic game based on it. And finally, from Jonathan, which style of interaction do I prefer? Interaction in games, because I make a big deal that I would like to see a little bit more interaction in games, and multiplayer solitaire can get boring. But we have to say that, not all interaction is a good thing. Like, negative interaction is something I don't want to see. I don't want to see interaction where it's like, I pile on you, take all your stuff, ha ha ha, in your face, now you get to suffer. It's like, that's not fun interaction. The interaction I like in Euro games is, ones where I care about what the other player is doing because they're influencing the board state. Not necessarily me directly, like so-and-so is not stealing my art gallery pieces from me and the gallerist, for example. But then Kanban EV, there's a decent amount of interaction in that one, not just because of blocking spaces and stuff, but because what people do in terms of assembling cars or taking certain blueprints or putting so many parts into circulation influences my decisions of what I want to do. Some games like Ark Nova are not the most interactive in the world. Yes, I care about what other players are doing, but for the most part, I can kind of work on my own thing. But I'm trying to think of, Feudum I mentioned earlier. That one, what people do with those 6 guilds in Feudum has a profound effect on the board state. Hegemony is a good one. Now, Hegemony does have the occasional bit of negative interaction, but it's kind of an equal measure. And yeah, it's not my favorite part of that game, but there's only so much of it. But what people do influences the board state of what companies are there, what workers are there, what the state's got, the policies that are in place. Everything they do influences the environment. And I think that's kind of like a good summary of what interaction I like. I like interaction that affects the whole environment in the game, not just player-to-player specific direct interaction, but what you are doing is influencing the board state. You play a dry Euro point salad, something by Vladimir Suhi or Stefan Feld or any of these ones, and it's like, I could not care less. I mean, I played Marrakesh by Stefan Feld. I could not give a monkey's what other players did. I am doing my own little puzzle with these coloured cylinders, and then you got these tracks on the board. It is dry as a bone, and it's like, whatever. What you players do has no effect on me. I don't care. And that sort of thing gets boring. But, I mentioned a couple of games there. I'm trying to think, like, anything else I can think of. In some games, I mean, the blocking of spaces is not enough interaction, okay? I mean, I play Viticulture. I care sort of whether you're going to steal a space from me. But at the end of the day, that can be replicated in pretty much any game, anywhere. So I'm trying to think of games that influence the board state, like a proper environment. So, trying to think. No, not those. Not the Uwe Rosenberg stuff. Edge of Darkness actually is not a bad one, actually, as I look at that one. Because Edge of Darkness has a mechanic where the cards go across this central row, a little tableau row, but players upgrade a card every turn, and possibly more than once. But the cards don't necessarily get used by the player. They can belong to the player and be affiliated with them, but not all of them are. And if that happens, you've got to give money to use the card. But if somebody creates a powerhouse card, I might be the one that nicks it on a future turn before you get a chance. So what other players have done influences, again, the environment of that central row and makes me seize opportunities like, that'd be pretty cool if I did that. Yeah, I could use your card to do that. But you know what? Yoink. That feels good. That feels good in a game. It really does. Come on, there's got to be others. Come on, there's got to be others. Let's see if I can think of one more before I wrap this up. Come on. Struggling. Really struggling. Maybe this section of my collection is not the most heavy on the interaction front. Pulse. Oh, God, no, that's a Euro Arnak. No, that's not really going to work. Catan. No. That doesn't really count. Their story-based games. Wingspan, no. Scythe, kind of. I mean, that's fairly direct interaction. Like I say, maybe this section of the shelf is not the best examples, but yeah, probably not the best examples. But it's that sort of thing. The environment affects what I do. Other players will affect the environment. It may hinder me that they do this to the environment, but it's not that player is screwing me over directly. You've decided to buy these particular things for your own thing, and now as a result these things are more expensive. Okay, that affects me, but it wasn't you directly screwing me over. You didn't steal my pieces. You did something to benefit yourself, but it has an impact on everybody else. That sort of stuff in interaction wise is what I really like. And there we go. Oh my word, an hour and 3/4. An hour and 3/4. My poor throat. Man, I've never recorded a podcast this long. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Episode 100. I went through a bucket load of questions there. We've talked about 3 games that I've played. I probably maybe should have saved them for the next podcast, but I wanted to talk about them now. Yeah. That's 100. On to 101, I guess. Life continues, but thanks everybody for submitting some of those questions. Thanks everybody for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed an hour and 3/4 of me raving and ranting like a complete nutcase. But yeah, this should be a good fun one to see. But yeah, thanks to everybody. Thanks to the patrons who help support this show in general, like the whole channel. Thanks to everybody who has given me very nice comments recently with dealing with anxiety and stuff like that, or dealing with some of the trolls. It's been very nice to hear your positive thoughts. I'm not perfect, but I tried my best to obviously do things right, but I have my own style. It's the way it is. That can't really change and shouldn't really change. Many of you have stated this, but yeah, I still enjoy doing this. It's still enjoyable, but it is work. It's like having a second mini job. It will never be my only job because there's no way this channel will ever be able to give me enough funds to be able to live my life. But as a hobby / work, it's still fun to do, and it has exposed me to so much. A lot of cool people, a lot of cool games, a lot of cool designers and publishers, again, who respect what I do in terms of honest opinions. Some don't. That's their beef. But, it's good to associate with the right people. And, I get to play lots of different games. It's a hobby. It's a big thing in my life. Half the reason I'm single, because you try to find single girl gamers these days, they pretty much don't exist. So, especially ones who don't want kids. But yeah, life goes on, but I still enjoy it overall. There are hiccups along the way, as there are with everything. Nothing is ever perfect. I put a question recently where I said, do you want to be always optimistic but regularly disappointed? Or would you prefer to be what I call realistic / pessimistic more often, but be more surprised? I tend to fall more in that later camp. I'm not an optimistic person. I've seen stuff, I've experienced stuff, and I'm like, look, that's not going to turn out how you think it is. I know you want it to. It would be great if it did, but come on, let's be realistic about this and think about the pros and cons. That's my style. It's not pessimism, I don't think, but it definitely is a balance of optimism and that, to be what I call in the middle, which is realistic. But I had some interesting feedback from that, from people who fall on both sides. Although, more people fall on the realistic, pessimistic side than they do on the optimistic side, I noticed. But, that's kind of how I go. Not everything in life, nothing in life is perfect. I try not to be too optimistic about stuff because I know that things just don't turn out that way half the time. And I like the feeling of being surprised. Like, oh, I didn't expect it to be that good, but it was, and that makes me feel a lot better. The feeling of being happy about stuff and then constantly being disappointed feels like a downer, because you can only take that for so long before it starts to drain and grate on you. And maybe I used to be a lot more optimistic in early years. Who knows? And maybe as time has gone on, that grating has now got to a point where I'm like, a little deflated. But who knows? Who knows if I try to compare 40-year-old me with 25-year-old me, there certainly would be some differences, but age, wisdom, age and experience, you can teach your younger self a lot of stuff that you learn in 20 years of your life that you wouldn't have figured out at that point. So there is that. Anyway, I better sign off now. So thanks everybody for watching the show and supporting this. Hope you enjoyed this episode 100 bumper special, an hour and 50 minutes. Holy crap. So take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Love you all. Hope to see you at Essen. By all means, the meet and greet event. Stay tuned for my Essen preview video when I do that. Take care. Love you all. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my Sunday. So take care. Remember, it's only a game, and bye for now.